Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the 100 Days of Code. Today we are looking at yet another interesting topic with JavaScript again, and we are going to be looking at understanding why setTimeOut does not run even though you set the time to 0 milliseconds. So we are going to demo this using this console log. We're going to add 3 log statements, but we're going to add one using the setTimeOut call, and we're going to pass in a callback function here, and we're going to pass in 0, right? So this is expected to run in 0 seconds, and then we're going to console log this as second, and we console log this as third. But if we check this, we'll see something else completely with this. We'll notice that the first runs and then the third runs before the second runs. So if we check this in our browser now and we open our console, you should see that first, third, and second. Now, why does this happen like this? Because when we use setTimeOut, this is a very practical example of how JavaScript call stack works. setTimeout does not read your when you use setTimeout, rather, it doesn't read it as normal code. Rather, it reads it as an asynchronous event. It treats it like that, so it doesn't run it directly. Rather, it adds it to the call stack. So when it reads your code, it evaluates this, add this to the call stack, moves to this, evaluates this, and then when it's done running all the code from the top to bottom, it then goes back to the call stack, like it will treat your asynchronous code normally. So the setTimeout is not seen or is not treated like synchronous code, right? It's treated like asynchronous code. And so once this gets added to the call stack, that is when it now begins to consider the time. So if we add 0 seconds here or 0 milliseconds, we do not actually get the benefit of 0 milliseconds when the code is being read from top to bottom, right? Why? Because this is always treated as asynchronous code. Now, a very practical example where we see this and where you should avoid this is when you let me comment this out. Maybe you have an instance where you are waiting for, let's say, let's data equal to null, right? Or maybe let's data equal to null for now, and then you set timeout, right? This is something that most people do a lot of time. I've also made this mistake quite a number of time, and you start wondering why did it happen like this, and then you say data equal to, maybe an object, and then you try to come down here to access data. Right now, this is definitely going to give you null. If we check this out, you see it's going to give us null. Why? Because at this point the setTimeout has not run yet, right? So setTimeout at this point is asynchronous, so it doesn't run instantly. It's added to the call stack. It will only run after every other code on the file has been run. Then you will now go back to the call stack and begin to execute them one by one. But there's a very practical or helpful use case for this instance, right? And one practical use case for this is when you have, maybe you have some heavy calculations or data logic you want to carry out in your JavaScript, and you don't want it to block your HTML file from loading, because setTimeout also would not run until your HTML content has been painted on the screen. So it's not going to block your HTML, which is the DOM, right? So you can do something like loader equal to, or you can do something like this is loading. So we now have let's say documents dot body dot append child loader, and then then initially you can now, maybe you have a method, right? You have a method like heavy logic, right? That's going to take time, this heavy logic, and then let's say does something really heavy, right? But this time around, instead of just calling heavy logic directly here, which is going to affect your HTML page, what you can do is that you can call your HTML logic in a set timeout. This is a very helpful trick that you can use using the set timeout, and you pass this in here. Now automatically is going to assign the loader to the HTML, and then the HTML, which is your DOM, is going to be showing the loading state. It loads the HTML, so as it's loading the HTML, it's going to be loaded with the loading state, and then it goes back to the call stack. So it's not going to run this immediately. It would load the HTML, then it goes back to the call stack, and then it picks your JavaScript, or it runs this heavy logic from the call stack, and then immediately updates your HTML. Now this is a very helpful use case where you can use the set timeout. So once you understand this, you know when to use set timeout and when not to use set timeout, how it affects your DOM, and how to improve performance on your web application. I believe you learned something today. If you did, do well to drop a comment, like. If you've not subscribed to my channel before, do well to subscribe, and also turn on your notification bell so that you can get notified whenever I drop videos like this. Thank you, and see you tomorrow. Bye.